this. First off, why a movie? Why even a movie? Well, when I started in advertising in my 20s, 100 years ago, I always liked to have a side project going on while I was working. I always wanted a creative side project going on. I was a big believer in that, and I still am. In my agency, I encourage that. A lot of people think that's a distraction. I actually think that helps fuel creativity. So in the 80s and the 90s, I had like a performance group in Chicago, and that's where I'm from, and that's where I live today. And we would write and put up sketch comedy shows and stage shows, and it was really gratifying. And when that kind of wound down, I turned to screenwriting for a couple of reasons. One, I still wanted to have something that I could do on the side, you know, from a creative standpoint. And two, it didn't require anybody. It was something I could do all by myself, you know. So I know there's been like thousands and thousands of books written about screenwriting and how to write screenplays and everything. And just for the sake of today and to level the playing field, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about screenwriting in one simple slide, okay? And it goes like this. Act 1, get your hero stuck in a tree. Act 2, throw rocks at him. Act 3, get him down. Is good is the notion of never be afraid to look like an idiot to protect your ideas. I don't care whether it's the biggest production you've ever been on or the smallest tweet or the smallest post. Never be afraid of what you look like getting your ideas. You don't have to be a jerk about it. I tried not to be a jerk about it, but you don't have to be a jerk about it. But get in there and if that director's not giving you what you need, you're not going to get a second chance later. You can apologize to your boss all you want later. Get in there and get what you need.
Board members that was a huge champion for this, happened to be a female board member, tends to be a little more progressive in the way she thinks about things, and was a huge advocate for me helping some of her peers understand the strategy and why this was important. And the fact that if they liked it, that meant sort of by definition the target audience wouldn't like it. So we had to do something that was the opposite of what would have made my board happy, and helping them understand the tension between that, you know, made a lot of sense to all of you, made no sense to them at the time. And so she was expecting a little bit more of a laughable asshole, a Bill Murray type. And when it took sort of a darker turn, she was one of the very first people I showed the rough cut to. There's this long pause, and she says, you know, I hate to tell you this, but I don't like it. I'm like, oh, crap. We just did all this, and now it's failing with my big champion. But she also wasn't the target audience. So, you know, I didn't like the fact that she didn't like it, but it sort of gave me a little bit more comfort that maybe we did the right thing since it's making her uncomfortable. And then after we launched, 50 million views later, I get this great email from her that says, well, I guess that's 50 million I told you so. So they were all afraid, like Joe said. It scared the shit out of him, scared the shit out of me, and it definitely scared the shit out of my board. Yeah. So they were very hung up on, you know, our community is really great at putting up walls and bumper guards and railings to keep ourselves safe within this little box that we're comfortable playing in. And the analogy I've used a lot recently is what Martin helped me understand was there is no box. We create the box in our mind. There are no walls. We just have a platform. And you can choose who to reach with it and how to use it. And the other thing I'll say about the collaboration and the trusted relationship with the Martin Agency was they were always behind the scenes, working and arming me with the data, the strategy, the points that I needed to use to do the best that I could to convince a 20-member conservative board of directors that this was worth the risk. I remember there was a moment, I think Steve Humble was part of this conversation, where we sort of sat down and said, okay, what is the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario? And we were able to explain this. We had a campaign for the campaign to the board. And we explained that the best case scenario is we have tens of millions of views, it goes viral, it's popular amongst our target audience, and it's fantastic, and we register a bunch of people, we save a lot of lives. The worst case scenario is people don't like it, and because we're only launching this virally, we're not spending, it's not broadcast, no one will see it, and the only people we will end up aggravating will be people within our industry. And were we willing to throw a great idea away, leave it on the shelf and let it die, because we were afraid of ticking off our constituents?